You're listening to the Breakaway Wealth Podcast, the show that helps you build wealth faster, think outside the box, and break out of the herd. Here's your host, Jim Oliver. Welcome back, Breakaway Wealth. I'm your host, Jim Oliver, and with me today, Jared Yellin. Jared, welcome.
Thank you, my friend. Honored to be here and excited to create some value for your wonderful community.
Me too, Jared. Before we get started, go ahead and just introduce yourself to the audience. Tell them a little bit about you and what you're doing.
For sure. So most importantly, I'm a dad to 3 rock star children and
Nice.
married to my soulmate, Lindsay. I'm what you call a parallel entrepreneur. I never made that up, but someone once said that to me. So I run lots of businesses at one time. I do it through a holding company. My fanatical focus right now, though, is I'm Jewish. And on October 7th, when the war began in Israel, I wanted to do something to create impact. I'm not a passive supporter to anything. So I was trying to figure out where I could really just make the most significant change. And what I learned was that there's thousands of early stage software companies in Israel right now that are in a distressed state because founders and founding teams have been pulled into combat. And as a result, their business and their dream has been put on ice. So we're rolling up these companies, giving cash to these now soldiers that are in combat. They maintain a very meaningful equity position in the business as well. And then we take full operational responsibility, engineering, marketing, and back office.
I love that, Jared. And we'll put the link to that organization in the show notes if you'll email that to me. And
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We support Israel. And I'll tell you what, these demonstrations in the United States, don't get me started on that, because I've got a lot of friends. I've got a lot of friends that I've got a friend who, I'm a watch guy. I don't know if you're a watch guy or not.
Yeah.
And she served in the IDF. I mean, she's Israeli citizen. And I've got another friend who's actually his parents were Christian missionaries. And so he grew up in Israel, and he would say, hey, my parents said, hey, if you get on the bus, if there's anything get off the, anything under the seat, get off the bus. I mean, some of the ways, people in the United States don't understand terrorism really, because we don't really have to live with it.
Yeah.
Right. But if you are living in Israel, you definitely, you get it. Right.
It's like another Tuesday. Yeah. It's like every day. Yeah.
And the fact that it's been a year and they're still, I pray that there are hostages still alive. I know there are, but I'm afraid that a lot of these hostages, it's not good news. But anyway, so I love what you're doing with the businesses. Tell people what you do. What's your unique ability? What does your company do?
Yeah. So what I'm doing in Israel, I've been doing for almost 15 years now. So I'm what you call a non-tech tech founder. So what that means is there's not an engineering bone in my body. I know how to write marketing copy, and I know how to sell. And over the past decade plus, I've built a portfolio of B2B and B2C SaaS companies. SaaS is software as a service. I have this really firm belief that the only way to reduce or even eliminate risk in an early stage SaaS company is to take full operational responsibility. So in every one of our portfolio companies, we become the engineering team, the marketing team, the back office team. We're not writing a check and praying. We're actively building businesses. And we have a very specific methodology on how to scale these businesses efficiently. So the tech industry as a whole may be the least efficient industry that exists. Companies raise tens, if not even hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're still losing money each year. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So we have a very firm methodology on how you scale a business without having to infuse enormous amounts of capital. And instead, you do exactly what that local pizzeria does in Naples, which is have your revenue exceed expenses. Because if that local pizzeria can do that, then a SaaS company should be able to do it as well. So we're just very, very efficient with how we use capital, how we deploy capital, the decisions that we make around capital to scale businesses.
So, Jared, I own parts of or all of, at one time it was over 30 companies, but now I've kind of scaled back a little bit and sold a few. I've got probably, I think, between like 15, 18 companies right now that, and I don't count this as all of those, in the crypto mining space. So I understand what you're saying, because that's an emerging market, and the mining part is an emerging, maybe, I don't think it's dying, but it's like emerging, dying. It's like, I never know what's going on with that. But, the way that I got into buying companies is I was a financial planner, and I went out, and instead of working with the doctor, the lawyer, or whatever, I worked with the welder, the plastics formation company. and I would talk to them, and I would and I would see how the ones that were run well operated, and the ones that weren't run that well, how they were operated.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's like anything else, whether it's brain surgery or buying businesses, there's patterns,
For
right?
sure.
And so I think it's cool because, you know what, I get a lot of people on the show and they're like, hey, let me talk to the audience about how to buy multifamily real estate. And I'm all for multifamily real estate, man.
Yeah,
I really,
it's a great
really
asset
am.
class.
But if it's, hey, let me show you, or hey, you can be an investor and we're going to go out and buy these companies. So I mean, I want to hear like how somebody in the audience, because kind of to set the table a little bit, a lot of people in the audience, they're doing infinite banking. So they have an insurance contract. They may have millions of dollars in the insurance contract. And because they have that, they get to use the insurance company's money while that money is growing tax-free to go buy assets like businesses, like real estate, all of those things, right? And so talk to that a little bit about like how, because I love this, that you're giving people, I think you're giving people opportunities to buy into this opportunity.
We finance this really creatively though, so you'll love this.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was your background, so you'll love what we're doing. So let's just use the Israeli portfolio as an example.
Yeah.
So if you look at these assets, like let's pretend I wasn't involved and you're doing diligence on these assets. It's every red flag you can imagine. War-stricken territory, companies that have no team because they're at war, and revenue that's going in the wrong direction really quickly because they have no team. So from any standard, you don't touch those things, right? That's a really risky asset. Now, for me, I don't see it that way because they got great products. They got a little bit of traction in the market. We know how to commercialize early stage SaaS companies really well. But from like a profile, it's a very, very risky opportunity. So what we've done is we've actually set up a 501c3, a public charity. The charity is called the Innovation Bridge Foundation. The mission of the charity is to bridge the innovation gap in distressed countries like Israel, in the future, Africa, Ukraine, Mexico, and then also in underprivileged and underrepresented communities as well. So what we do is we allow high net worth people, corporations, and even just wonderful people that believe in this mission to make a charitable contribution to the 501c3. Like any 501c3, you get a tax deduction as a result of your contribution. Now, the charity has an administrator that's not me. So we have separation of church and state. The administrator's responsibility is many things, but the most important thing is they say yes or no to the allocation of capital to ensure that you're allocating capital aligned with the mission of the actual organization. So our for-profit portfolio in Israel is called Create Israel. It's a for-profit portfolio. It's an LLC. We got Create Israel approved by the administrator. So let's just pretend for easy math that in September, the charity allocates $15 million to Create Israel in exchange for 10% equity in Create Israel. So now the charity is an equity holder in a for-profit portfolio. Let's say Create Israel then goes out and acquires 12 companies that are in Israel that are distressed. We take the assets of those companies, we put them in a Delaware C Corp, and then we focus in the US on commercializing those companies, those Delaware C Corps. Let's pretend that one of the companies, Jim, scales really fast and we sell it for $250 million. We distribute all of the money pro rata. Well, on that liquidity event, the charity just got $25 million, which means the charity can sustain itself independent of donors, and almost no charity can sustain itself independent of donors. Now, what we're doing is we're having donors contribute whatever amount they want. They can contribute as little as $5 up to $500 million or any number in between. All of our donors are being placed inside of a private membership platform that we've launched. It's called our donor network. This is where donors have a chance to see all of the impact we're having together. We list the companies, the stats of the companies, the stories of the soldiers, et cetera. It's very inspiring, but it's so much more than just that. We expect to have close to 10,000 donors this year alone. So what we're doing is before we acquire any distressed company in Israel or any company in the future in other countries as well, we list them in the donor network, and the donors that want to can actually vote and have a sense of contribution of what we're saying yes or no to. Once we acquire a company, we use our donor network as a launch pad. So we get early adopters and affiliates. And for any donor that's also an accredited investor, which we identify in onboarding, there's a private section to the donor network where we list companies that are no longer distressed. They're now stabilized, they're scaling, and getting equity to enable them to scale faster. And we give first and only right for our donors to make direct equity investments into these off-market opportunities. So people at organizations, they come in through charity, they get their tax deduction, but they never miss out on the upside. Now, why does this matter? Because when you make a donation, you automatically get your return on your donation, which is the deduction. You can't
Right.
lose, like you've gotten
Right.
your return. But if you make an equity investment into an asset that's in a war-stricken territory, that has revenue going the wrong direction and no team, the likelihood of you losing your equity investment is extremely high. So we don't believe it's prudent to put equity investments into these very distressed assets. We use philanthropic dollars because you can't lose a philanthropic dollar as a donor to actually turn these companies around. Once they're turned around and now they're doing 25K a month, 50K a month, 100K a month, whatever that number is, that's a great investment if it's a company that you believe in. So that's how we're doing this, to reduce risk along the entire journey. And I think there'll be white papers written about how we've been able to have a 501c3 be able to support such an important for-profit initiative that we're doing.
Yeah, no, that's when you were just going through that, I thought, man, I never thought about that, or I've never seen anybody doing that. But I
Yeah.
love that because it gives you really, it's a win-win for the investor, because you're getting, like you said, you're getting the deduction immediately, and then you have the positive on the other side.
On the other side, yeah.
Yeah,
And then
and
what's cool
so
too is like raising equity just takes so long. Like I'm
yeah,
sure you've been in that boat. It's such
yeah,
a pride. The diligence is long. Like you got to kiss a lot of frogs. It takes a while, right?
yeah,
Well, when
yeah,
you're focusing on a war-stricken country, you don't have time. Like every day
right,
that goes by, another company is going to die. In addition, venture capital, private equity, angel investor capital, it's a red ocean. It's a competitive world. Everybody's spending their time there, right? So you have to somehow like differentiate yourself from the herd of other assets that look and sound like yours, but somehow you have this unique feature that's going to make all the world a difference.
yeah,
We're not focused on that kind of capital. We're focused on philanthropic dollars, donor advised funds, high net worth people that have earned income and they want to find different ways to offset their earned income from a tax perspective, family foundations, corporations that have mandates on charitable giving. It's a blue ocean of capital. And there's
yeah,
also, and I'm not trying to avoid diligence, but there's no diligence. And
yeah,
the reason I'm trying to avoid diligence is not because I have to hide anything. We don't have time. These companies are going to die. So I'm like,
yeah.
we have to find a mechanism where there's no risk for the capital source. Well, there's no risk for the capital source if you're making a donation to a 501c3. You have zero risk because you got
Right.
your deduction.
No, I love that. By the way, I love that book too. And Blue Ocean,
Yeah, yeah,
Red Ocean. So for the audience, Red Ocean is you're doing what everybody else is doing. You're just trying to do it better. Blue Ocean is you're actually creating the market. You're creating something different to where really nobody can compete with you because you created it, right?
yeah,
And um, it's funny because my team, Jared, there's a lot of people that talk about infinite banking
yeah,
and financial independence and everything else out there in on YouTube and Instagram and everything else. And I'm
yeah,
like, no, I don't want to just do that red ocean crap and try to do it better than them. I want to, what's our blue ocean strategy?
yeah, yeah,
And I'm constantly saying that to our team. And for us, what most people have been taught about infinite banking is you do this insurance contract and you go buy your cars and you finance your buildings. And if you're in business and you do all of that, right, you recapture the interest that you would have paid to other financial institutions or the lost opportunity cost on your cash. Because when financial entertainers talk to people that don't understand money, they tell you just pay cash, like your cash doesn't have a
yeah,
value
yeah,
or
yeah.
cost, right? And so people that understand, then they want to take that money and go put it in cash flowing assets. Well, how do you do that? It's really two choices. You have some kind of real estate variation or you have businesses. And it could be a franchise, it could be all of these different things in business. So what this is an opportunity, it's like you said, it's a blue ocean opportunity to do something totally different than what I just mentioned, right? This is different than that. And you get because again, if I'm going and doing real estate and I'm going to make $5 million this year, and I'm a real estate investor, and if I'm a real estate investor, that means I'm in the real estate business, right?
Yeah,
Um, I'm really gonna. It's the deduction. I mean, it's the depreciation. It's
yeah,
the I'm going to get a cost segregate. I'm gonna accelerate that because I don't want to pay tax on that $5 million,
of
right?
course.
Or I sure as hell don't want to pay 37% tax on that. So this is a way to, it's kind of, this is a way to get that deduction right away.
Yep.
And then have the potential of the backside profit too, but without the risk. I
Yeah,
mean,
because we've de-risked the asset, right? So like think about it, like the companies that we're looking at are doing under $5,000 a month, not because of a product market misfit. It's a function of war. Some of them may have gotten to 10, 20, 30K a month, which is great for an early stage SaaS company. That's like all green lights. But the war hits, team is no longer able to focus and
yeah,
or they're at combat. And it's going in the wrong direction, just natural attrition. So now it's doing 2 grand a month. So we acquire the company, we pay cash on closing to the Israeli founding team. We have a bonus structure in place, whereas we hit certain milestones, they get additional liquidity. They have an open door to come back and join forces with us yet again if they want to in the future. And if they do, they earn more equity and they have meaningful equity that we leave inside of their Israeli entity as well. So they get the upside when there is a liquidity event. We then take over the responsibility. We commercialize it. We turn the company from doing $2,000 a month to $25,000 a month in 90 days, let's just say. And now we know we're onto something. We figured out who the customer is. We get a really good affiliate network that's sending deal flow our way. And we say, okay, let's go raise $1 million at a $5 million valuation, just making it up for easy math. We put that in the donor network, and any donor that's an accredited investor has the chance to do angel investing in there. Let's just say that you, Jim, you're like, I love that company.
yeah,
I'm going to do the full million. So you do the full million, you own 20% equity now in that one company, the Delaware C Corp. You're on the cap table.
yeah,
Let's say we go and we sell that company in 3 years for $100 million.
yeah,
Well, you just got $20 million because you own 20% of the company. The soldiers, let's say that they own 25% at that point, they get $25 million. The charity owns 10%, they get $10 million. The team that worked it owns a percentage, et cetera. So we just created a really interesting access point where we're using that, again, philanthropic dollars to turn things that are distressed into stable assets and letting our donors that provided those philanthropic dollars to invest equity so they don't miss out on upside. Because if we didn't do the back end stuff, my concern was we still raise a lot of money from donors because this is a very important cause. But then some of the donors would watch some of our companies and they'd be like killing it. I mean, these companies would turn to like these unicorns. They're like, I'm never donating $1 again because they missed out on upside. I'm like, I don't want anyone to feel that way. Like, make as large of a donation as you can, whatever. And that's different for everybody. Whatever that means, make the donation. And then when you're inside the network, you can pick companies that you want to directly invest in. And the diligence is very minimal because we are the teams. So the only thing that you're going to really diligence is, do you believe in the product? Do you have experience in the industry? Like, are you a strategic? So like you're putting in 100K, but your network is so immensely valuable that if you were to promote that company inside of your network, you could generate $2 million of business. I always tell people, if you're going to invest in early stage software companies, invest in things that you can promote. So like if you can promote something, you should invest in it because then you're not just going to get an affiliate commission. You're getting the multiplication associated with revenue and the way that that's valued from a SaaS perspective.
yeah. No, I love that. And, the thing is that, for the audience's benefit is, when you've run a business successfully and you've turned a business from worth this to this, whatever that is, that you know how to do it and you know what to look for. And,
Totally.
you see the mistakes that these new companies make that are making. And it's like, sometimes it's a very easy fix. And like you said, and I'll give you a quick example on that. Is this guy had this pilot car business, right? And he had like pilot cars are, they're in front of the windmills that are going all over the country, and they're going to make sure that they can make it under the bridge in Iowa and a lot of in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Well, they're onesies and twosies, and they're vans and they're trucks, right? So the idea was to put them in Priuses, hybrids, right? Fuel efficient, and make the guy driving the hybrid a owner operator. His the tax deduction is higher per mile than it costs to drive the Prius, which means you don't pay tax on your end, right?
Yeah.
And then you go get contracts with these trucking companies because they don't have like one company that does this. Every time they have a need, they're on the phone trying to set up somebody to just meet that truck. You actually like get a computer system and everything else. So that company went from worth really nothing, maybe $1 million, $2 million, to worth like $20 million, like that. And it was simple, right? But then you got to have a little bit of capital to go buy these vehicles. But then you're going to lease them to the owner operator, by the way. right? So it's that kind of thing. It wasn't rocket science. It was, you could do it 10 times with 10 other companies once you know how to do that. Jared, what did you do when you got out of school, or did you always have an entrepreneurial, did you start there? How did you go?
Yeah,
What was your
purebred.
path?
Yeah, I did go to college, but purebred entrepreneur. So I went to Indiana University. I was in the Kelley School of Business. When I was in college, I was a natural bodybuilder. I
Mhm.
never competed. It was just my own discipline. I got a lot of attention for it because I was incredibly strong. And I mean, as natural as they come. Like I didn't even
Yeah.
have protein powder back in the day. But I would like incline bench press over 400 pounds. And like the
Wow.
rule in the gym was if you had more than 2 plates on each side, you had to have a spotter, which makes complete sense. Like
Yeah.
that should be a rule in every gym. So
Yeah.
I'd find the smallest dude or a girl. I'll be like, can you spot me when I had 4 plates on each side? And they're like, I can't help you. I'm like, that's exactly why I want you to
Yeah.
spot me. But so I kind of built a name for myself. A lot of my business school professors would come to me and ask me for health advice. And I realized that if I gave them health advice, that they wouldn't do anything with it if they weren't paying for it. So we struck a deal, which was you pay me, I'll get you healthier than you've ever been in your life, and you pass me. So I graduated very
Okay.
quickly, didn't take any final exams in college. They knew that I was just destined to be an entrepreneur. So, but I mean, besides for a very, very short stint, a few months, I worked on Wall Street just to see what that was like.
Yeah.
And I learned quickly it wasn't for me because they told me, I think I was like 21, like if you comb your hair to the right, you'll look older. I'm like, I'm done. Done,
Yeah.
not my place. Like, I don't want to look older and I don't want to look like you. And I definitely don't want to comb my hair to the right. So, yeah, purebred entrepreneur. I've launched a lot of companies. I've had some great wins. I've had a ton of great losses. I've learned a lot. I don't believe you ever lose. I believe you learn or you win.
Yep.
So I've learned a lot and I try to turn those learnings into earnings as quickly as possible because then you have a chance to win for the lessons that you've gained.
I love that. By the way, I'm 59 and like I'm at the gym and I'm not as strong as I used to be, but it's when people I see other 59-year-olds or 65-year-olds or 70-year-olds, and I tell people you have to lift weights. Forget about
Yeah, yeah.
walking, forget about
It's really
running, forget
important.
about
Yeah.
Peloton crap. I'm sorry, Peloton,
Yeah.
but just lift weights. Like that's how you get stronger. That's how you get younger. Okay, so along that path, somebody had to give you some great advice, Jared. What's the best advice
Yeah.
anybody's ever given you?
So my greatest mentor in business is a gentleman named Rick Sapio. I pray for him right now. He has stage 4 pancreatic cancer.
Oh
He's
man.
fighting the good fight. His wife has stage 4 colon cancer, and they have
Oh,
4 kids. So just pray,
Ooh.
pray, pray. And he's
Yeah,
doing a
definitely pray
completely
for him
alternative
and
route, and
her.
he's battling. So he is my greatest business mentor, and he made a comment to me years ago, and it was every problem that exists in your life is always because personal or professional is because you let the wrong person into your life. And if you look back at any
Mhm.
challenge that emerged, it was always that. So he has this thing called the doorman principle. So and whenever my doorman took a day off, it somehow bit me in the end. So I get just very intentional about like who is getting into my life. Do we share values? Do we align on outcomes? And if not, it's just a hell's no. And that's just hell's yes or hell's no. So Rick has been the greatest business mentor, and I pray for him each day.
I love that. You just explained why my dating life has been struggle. No, I'm
Yes.
just kidding. I'm just kidding. All right. Last question, Jared, is if God came down from heaven and only allowed you to retain the knowledge from one book, what would that book be?
Startup Nation, which I didn't realize, which is a book written around the Israeli entrepreneurial ecosystem, which I read years and years ago, not knowing that I'd be doing what I'm doing today. And it actually is a really good book for entrepreneurs to read because it talks about why Israel, which is a really, really small country, has been able to produce some of the most iconic companies in history. And there's so many valuable lessons. Just so everybody knows this, there's only 15 million Jews in the entire world. So it's 0.2% of the entire population, and there's 7 million in Israel. So the fact that a country with so few people have produced so much impact from an innovation perspective, it's remarkable. So there's a lot of great lessons in there. And I read this years ago, not knowing that I was going to be doing what I'm now doing today.
I love that. And another book to echo that same message is Thou Shalt Prosper by Rabbi Daniel
Yeah.
Lapin. And it's, that I've always had, I was adopted. And so, Jared, hopefully you'll take this the right way. So I had a lot of Jewish friends when I was getting divorced for the first time in Denver. And so on Christmas, I didn't have any family or anything. So we would go to the Jewish deli or we'd go to the Chinese food or whatever.
Of course, yeah.
And they were really teaching me about Jewish culture and being an entrepreneur and business owner and independent. And I said, you know what? Maybe I'm Jewish. And they said, no, you're not. And I said, wait a minute, how do you know? My Hispanic friends, and I love Mexican food. I say, well, maybe I'm Mexican. And they go, no, you're not. So no group really wants to claim me, but I'm still, I respect both those cultures and a lot of their work ethic. Jared, thank you so much for being on the show. Awesome, and what a cool thing. We're going to put all of Jared's contact, websites, social media stuff, all in the show notes. So Jared, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jim. You're awesome, man. Really appreciate it, buddy. Excited to build this friendship with you too.
Absolutely. And
awesome.
Audience, we're gonna leave today the way we always do with the incredible words of Earl Nightingale. So take it away, Earl.
Here's the key to success and the key to failure. We become what we think about. Now let me say that again. We become what we think about.
Thanks for listening to the Breakaway Wealth Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to this show wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. If you want to start increasing your wealth building ability right now, go to community.createtailwind.com to join our free online community and get access to free, in-depth training designed to help you build real, lasting wealth. See you next week.